Hey, welcome back. It's been a while since we've done Painting with a Noob and continuing in on our series with Joan of Arc. And this time we're going to be painting up some of the larger miniatures, and we're using contrast paints. So we're straying a little bit from how we've been painting thus far in order to try out and see if contrast colors are actually going to be faster.
If you haven't seen Gaming Geek's videos on contrast paints, please look that up on his channel. He's got some great tutorials. He goes in depth about the different colors and shades that are available. Some good stuff. I have to say, I am so impressed with the results. It came out really well, and it really saves a lot of time. Unfortunately, the range of colors you're going to be a little bit limited to, but that's okay. Take advantage of them when you can. And so we're just going to jump right into it. Again, we're finally moving, as promised, into some of the larger creatures, and we're going to keep on going from here. So stay tuned, and we'll get right into it.
So here's the Cockatrice, and as you can see from the reference photo, what we're going to do is use the Seraphim Sepia or the Skeleton Horde. They're both the same color, and so I'm going to go ahead and use the Seraphim Sepia wash over most of the feathers and the body as a base. And then when you look up here on the reptilian parts, it's basically white. So I'll use the contrast color Apothecary White just to give it a little bit of shade, and we'll do all of the scaly parts in that color and see how that turns out.
So Gamer Geek, as you're getting settled into the painting of the Cockatrice here, he and I sat down and really thought about these color schemes, and as a noob, that's one of the harder things to determine. It's really difficult. You want to get the right kind of colors, and you don't want them to pop from each other a whole lot. But remember now, we've primed these guys in white using just contrast paints alone.
And again, the reason why, even though I have Skeleton Horde, the contrast color, the reason why I'm using Seraphim Sepia is because with these larger models, you're using a lot of paint. And if you see one of my other videos comparing the contrast paints versus washes, you'll see that washes are actually more cost effective because you get a lot more in a bottle for about the same price.
So if you haven't already, look on Gamer Geek's channel, and you're going to find the contrast paints. What's the title of that video?
I don't remember, but you can click on the top right here, and I'll put a link there. But it's basically comparing all of the washes and contrast colors.
It's an excellent video, goes over a lot of information. I'd highly recommend Noob to watch it, or anybody who's interested in contrast paints. Contrast paints are all the rage these days, and you can see why, and Gamer Geek has actually kind of endorsed them himself after giving them a try.
Yeah, not all of the paint colors, because some of the darker colors basically are not great as what they are advertised to do. But some of these, especially earth tones, I found to be really, really good. And that's what we're using for both the Griffin and the Cockatrice today.
As you can see, it goes into the crevices really nice. And so they turn out to be a fantastic way of quick painting, right?
Absolutely. It's actually faster. Again, depending on the color, it's faster than our previous methods where we showed you to prime in black and then just putting in block painting there. You're basically getting rid of that step of needing to do
layers.
Layers, yeah.
Yeah. So this is just really a block painting or a base painting and done.
Pretty much, yeah. Just one coat.
And the effects look great. It's very good noob painting, or very good speed painting.
The one downside is these contrast paints, one pot is basically $8. If you can get it on discount like I do, they're more like $7. But that's still pretty pricey considering that an average bottle, a dropper bottle of paint will be about anywhere between $2 to $3. So it's more than twice the cost. But if it saves you the time, because essentially your time is money, right? If it saves time, it's going to be worth it for you. So even as a noob, it's a little bit more on the steeper side in terms of cost, and a lot of Games Workshop supplies and products are more on the pricier side, so you are paying a premium. But being able to cut out a step or two can be worth it. Yeah, Roger and I were debating whether or not to use the yellow, the Iandon yellow, which is a color that I really like a lot, but it is pretty bright, so we decided a little bit against it, possibly maybe highlighting the face a little bit later, but because of its brightness, might look a little bit unnatural since the rest of the colors on this model are more natural. But we'll see what this looks like.
Gaming Geek and I probably spent close to 15 minutes just examining the paints and looking at them again and trying to come up with a scheme. We wanted to follow the card a little bit, but it wasn't absolutely necessary. I kind of like figures that pop a little bit more, but for Joan of Arc, you know, this isn't really the mythical universe that we might find somewhere else, so we decided in the end to kind of tone it down a bit and go with some of these earth tones that we're putting on. But again, the paint schemes, just kind of sit down with your figure for a while, pull out some paints, kind of collect them in front of you, look at them, and decide what each area is going to look like instead of starting to paint and then decide, which is a mistake that I've made often because I just want to get these paints going and get started, and then I kind of find out, well, you know, that didn't look real good. So just give that some thought. Try to think about each area of the model. It does.
Now you can see here the I got some of the wash. It started running down here, and so I will have to go back and paint white over that before I do the apothecary white. But that's not a big problem.
Okay, so the Noob's going to give a shot with the Griffin, also using these contrast colors. So let's talk a little bit about the paint scheme here. Gaming Geek has a previous Griffin that he did for Mythic Battles, which is our Pantheon.
Yeah.
Mythic Battles, Pantheon, right? Here's a Griffin that he did in a variety of colors, and you know, I just kind of realized that it was a lion and a bird. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought, well, it's just a Griffin, but no, it's half lion, half bird. So what color here we got?
This is Wildwood, which is the darkest brown that the contrast line has.
So we're going to load up the brush here, and then start by painting this area all the way back to about here, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay. You can kind of see that distinction there where the feathers start unruffling. A lot of paint going on here. It's very wash-like. So I guess you were saying contrast paints really are just a wash.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And how you paint them is the same as a wash.
All right, we also said we wanted to go back down his back here on these feathers. Kind of leave that mane there a little bit.
I would actually go right up against, because we're going to
go right up against the crest.
Yeah,
okay.
Because if you look at a picture of a bald eagle, the distinction between the white head and the body is pretty demarcated. It isn't a gradual shade of fading out.
Okay, Gamer Geek was nice, shook up the bottle for me. And now we're going to try doing something like this. So I have decided to start filming a few videos on my own, and I'll just be posting those on my own channel, and GamerGeek will provide a link, but I'll just show you everything that I'm painting in the Joan of Arc line as I do it. So I just got done doing some siege work, and I'll be showing you some of that. Alright, so there's his top half, and we're going to do 3 tones on the bottom.
Okay, back to the cockatrice. As I mentioned before, I need to paint over this leg because the contrast paint ran down the leg. So I'm just repainting that section white. And that's basically how you can cover over any mistakes that you made.
And that's just plain old white acrylic paint. It's not a primer or anything like that.
No. Nope.
Just for the touch-up.
Yep. And now what I'm going to do with all these white parts, the reptilian parts, is use Apothecary White. And I'm just going to go over all of these sections. So I'm actually going to use some dark tone from Army Painter because there's a couple of spots that I want it to be darker than what is showing right now. And it's still wet, which is what I want because I want there to be a little bit of blending to happen between these spots that I'm going to darken up a little bit.
So as we're painting this, GamerGeek and I were wondering, what's the special ability of a cockatrice? Right? And so we actually had to pull out the old Dungeons and Dragons monster manual, and because in the game he's basically just a big chicken, and we were wondering, can they petrify you? Do they have poison? Oh yes, they're just like a basilisk. They have the ability to turn flesh to stone, the monster manual says.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
this is an ancient creature of legend. Oh, that's looking a lot better. Putting that wash on there. So yeah, we got a ancient creature here. He's really ugly in the monster manual. He's a lot prettier in the in this game.
Joan of Arc version.
Apparently, he can't turn you into stone in Joan of Arc. He can't fly though. He is a flying creature, and he does have ranged attack as well. Interesting enough. Huh. Okay, so I grabbed the contrast skeleton horde. No, it's lighter. It's just a shade lighter. Yep. Yeah, this is a lot runnier than some of the previous colors. Boy, it really runs into those crevices. But it's also blending very nicely with his existing color scheme. Yeah, we're definitely going to want to darken that up as I'm painting over it now. I'm seeing that. Okay, we're going to let that dry a little bit, and we'll come back and do a little bit more here. Apothecary. White now for the head and the underside of those wings. I think that's going to be perfect. Oh, but you know what? I may have to go back and touch up some of those edges of the wings that got on the underside of that. Oh, yeah. How do we do this guy? We don't want to do his beak, right? Probably more of a yellow on the beak.
Yeah, the beak will be yellow. And his claws as well as hands.
Okay.
Alright, so I'm actually going to be using Griffhound Orange and going to be touching up a couple of spots that, according to the card, looks like is sort of a reddish orangish color. And so I notice that his crest here sort of fades a little bit. So I might come back with yellow as well. And then around the eyes, it looks like
Okay, so I'm going to use that black Templar. Oh, if you're interested in French history a little bit, and something that kind of predates the 100 Years' War, actually it's the very beginnings of the 100 Years' War, King Philip and the Knights Templar. There's a show on Netflix called Nightfall that, semi-historical reenactments, you know, of the time period. It's a little mini-series, so it's, you know, something you can watch. The wife and I have been watching it. She also enjoys history, especially when it comes to monarchs and things like that. But they talk about the Knights Templar, and Mark Hamill is actually in it, and he plays a trainer, of all things, of Templar Knights. So something you might want to check out.
I'll go ahead and use Black Templar. The cockatrice is pretty much done, and so the last step is just to, like everything else, take my avocado craft paint and do the base down here.
Pretty much wrapped up the cockatrice. We'll do a little bit more painting on the base. But gosh, I mean, this is the card, guys. It just, contrast paints, look at that, okay, work miracles, right? So what would be normally a 2 or 3 hour figure for me is 1 hour. It's actually less. We've been talking a lot using contrast paints. So, all right, and we're going to finish up the Griffin real quick. We're going to use this contrast, what do you call it?
Ienden.
I can't read. On the beak and on the claws over there. It looks so orange, but don't worry. It's going to be this great yellow. Finer work. All right, so here we go. Oh yeah, look at that beak. Yep. Okay, he's done. We just got some eyes left to do on this fella. Oh, and I'll get his mouth.
It's red.
We'll wait till the yellow dries there, and then we'll do his mouth.
So here you have it. We have painted these guys up fairly quickly, and even though they're larger models, I think the contrast colors really covered a lot of surface area quickly.
I can't say just how much I enjoy the look of these guys with so few steps, even for a noob, right? And so a noob's going to really like this. It's really expensive. And again, like I said, you were a little limited in the colors, but hey, for a Griffin and the Cockatrice, this is all you needed. So look into it.
Yep, absolutely. So until next time, keep on painting and play more of Joan of Arc.
Love all, serve all the best.